ask Master Jesus if he could join us.
Absolutely.
Be really honored to
I
have
felt
him.
him come in when I was answering that last question, because what he demonstrated
Okay.
in the resurrection, and this was the purpose of his physical incarnation, was not the crucifixion. It was to demonstrate that the physical body is not who we are, and that we can raise our vibration. So in his 3 days when he was in the tomb, he metamorphosized his body from physical into a light vessel. So when he appeared, when he came out of the tomb, he was in a much higher frequency state, so he could manifest his body at will, and he could move to teleport wherever he chose. And so the people who saw him afterwards saw him as a radiant light being, not the physical vessel that he was before. And this is why he came, was to demonstrate resurrection, so that we can follow in his footsteps. And at that time, 2,000 years ago, the earth was not ready to hear that message. So he came to plant the seed of Christ consciousness. We, 2,000 years later, it had to wait for the age of Aquarius, because now the consciousness on the planet is such that we are now ready to take that step as a race, not as one person, but as an entire human race, into self-realization, which is what Aquarius is. It's every being in physical form being completely self-realized, reconnected to their own divine essence, and controlling their own lives under the divine will. So he was the seed, we are the blossoming of the tree. And that is why he's coming back now through so many people to give these messages. And this is the true meaning of the second coming. He is not coming back in physical form. He's coming back.
You're answering. Okay, you are answering actually a lot of the questions right now, as you'll see in a moment. I'm going to start with Sylvie Pelche's question. She asks, Master Jesus, please tell us, where do we go when we leave this earth?
There are many planes on when you leave the physical form. Your spirit goes back into the more subtle realms. We call them dimensions or planes. And so the way that you leave is most important. That if you can leave in a state of grace, peace, serenity, then you will go straight to the planes of grace. And this is the goal of many of the ancient spiritual traditions on the earth, especially the Buddhist, the Hindu, the true Christianity, was to find that connection to the source through contemplation, through meditation. Those of us who leave in a state of more distress, say extreme anger or resentment, agitation, those people stay on what we call the lower astral. Now, the Buddhists call this the realm of the hungry ghosts. And so their spirits are taken to what you might call hospitals, where other beings who are of higher vibration help them to heal. And then to move on. Archangel Gabriel especially helps souls to lift up to the higher realms.
So that's a thing that I think a lot of people have difficulty with, because in our three-dimensional realm, punishment seems to be part of our conditioning and our understanding. If somebody has done something wrong, then they should suffer.
And it is.
But I'm not hearing from you to people as they pass on, and there's different levels of ascension. Some are lower, some are higher.
No, they don't suffer. But the process, when one has left the body, one returns to spirit. For many people, their families who've passed over or their master guides and teachers will be waiting to receive them, to welcome them. When they leave the hospital, then that's where they will go. And they are then taken to this specific frequency where their own master guides and teachers wait to help them, not to judge them. Nobody goes and stands in front of the bench and this being says, oh, you're very bad and you have to go to that place and burn. No.
So there's no court, okay,
No.
where people are you know, judges are looking at you and studying your life and saying, look, you did there when you were 22 years old. I heard you say this to that person, and you're going to be punished severely for whatever it is they did. Okay, what about pets?
Let me.
What happens to pets when they pass on?
Let me finish that.
Sure.
Nobody judges you, but you judge yourself, because you are the one that is reviewing your life with support and help from your guide. So you are the one that said, oh, that wasn't good when I hurt that person. So then you decide, how am I going to put that right? So then you might make an agreement with the person that you harmed, that in the next life you would come as a benefactor, or that.
So that's like part of the self-realization.
Oh,
the self-realization occurs, or probably starts to occur in you know, earnest, when you begin to self-evaluate and realize the things that you've done that you would like to change. Okay, this is marvelous. I'm just eating this up. Mia Johnson, I'm going to continue here. We have a lot of questions. Mia Johnson asks, are you not shocked by how men have twisted and misinterpreted your message?
I am saddened that anybody has taken my word and used it to put people in fear, guilt, and shame. And this is why I'm here today, to tell you that those words did not come from me. They were simply to manipulate for political and financial purposes. And I am here to say that forgiveness is available to all.
What about the Bible? Was the Bible really written by God?
God doesn't write down his wisdom. He speaks in a small voice in the heart. So the Bible is a collection of anecdotes, of stories that have been written over a huge amount of time for the people who lived at that time. So that when you read the Bible, if what you're reading does not speak to your heart, does not call from you love and compassion, then it is not the voice of God the Father. It is the voice of humanity, of men. So you must use your own heart as your radar. When you
and Beverly Huff, another person.
How does this make me feel?
Sorry.
And if it doesn't make you feel love, then use your discernment and reject it, no matter who is telling you or where it is coming from. This applies to the television, your families, your church leaders or ministers. If it does not resonate with your heart, if you cannot feel that this is coming from pure love, then it's not true, and you need to reject it.
Well, that sounds like a very good way to go to our next question. I passed over a number of questions because they're all relating to the Bible. Why is it a lie, and different interpretations? But I think that what you just said now is that if you develop the sensitivity in your heart to understand what resonates with you as truth and what doesn't, then you're going to be in a position to do many good things. And I think the next question, it's answered just by what I said, because how can we teach empathy to all human beings? You have to be able to have some sensitivity in yourself, your own heart, to feel emotion, to know in your heart what is right, what is wrong, to understand that there's an awful lot of misinformation out there, especially today. It's amazing.
And you cannot.
Would I be right in?
You cannot teach anything except by how you are. People don't listen to your words. They look at how you act in the world. So don't be looking up there for somebody to give you the answer. Look at what effect am I having on the people around me? Am I making this world a better place? Are my words spreading love, compassion, and tolerance? Am I touching people with kindness? So just as I have said many times, to remove the plank from your own eye before you look for the mote in somebody else's. It all starts in here. You have to be the living example of love in action. That is all I asked. I never wanted people to follow me, to glorify my name. I want them to be love in action for all of humanity.
And speaking of your own sense, when you were in human form as Jesus Christ or Jesus of Nazareth, were you, was that your first time on earth? Had you been here previously, or had you been in other dimensions? I'm just wondering
in that
how it is, yeah.
That specific frequency that I was bringing in at that time as the Christ child, bringing in Christ consciousness, that was the first seeding of that specific vibration on the earth.
Okay, and you had, well, I have a question from a Native American who would like to know why you didn't listen to the Native American elders when they told you what was going to happen to you.
I knew even before I came into the body, and as did my beloved mother, Mother Mary, and Mary Magdalene, my beloved wife. We all knew the end of the story. And this was always a challenge for my human self, because we had agreed that I was going to leave the body as the living example of death beyond, life beyond crucifixion and death. And so this was my choice, and this was my agreement. So it was not possible. I did it fully consciously. I knew what I was doing, and it was not easy. And that is why I can say to each one of you, I have walked with you. I know how it is to be in this human form, to feel the fear. But I say to you that move through the fear as I did. Do not ask you to do anything that I did not do myself. Move through the fear and step into the light and the truth of all that you are. Take my hand and I will help you.
Wow, Everything that we have been told about Jesus, the story of Jesus, as far as the courage that you showed, I don't know how many of us would be capable of going through the fear. That's, you have to be very, very highly elevated, I think, to get to that point. But perhaps you can tell us a little bit about that later. I have now another question, actually, more of a personal question from Maria Jose Antune. She asked, "Are you well? Are you well, Jesus?"
On the plane that I am on, there is only love, peace, harmony, and wellness. There is, you see, that is the difference between where I am now, where you are now, and where you will be. When humanity actually completes the ascension process, you will all be living in peace, love, and harmony. I promise you this. And so, you know, we each one of you has walked your own path of crucifixion. I demonstrated one particular example, but each one of you has suffered on your own cross. You have all been through tragic loss, humiliation, abuse of every kind. So I do not belittle your experience compared to mine. I honor and I celebrate each and every one of you that you have suffered. You have been on the cross and you have not given up. You have persevered and you will prevail. You will move into the resurrection. And all of this will be like a bad dream. And that is why you are going through these trials now, why this virus is sweeping the earth, because it's time to wake up from the dream and start to live.
Okay. Well, and it sounds beautiful. It's hard, though, for a lot of people, I think, to get out of the three-dimensional limit and time space. It's kind of like the emotional aspect is very powerful. And when you were talking a moment ago about people having faith that they're going to get better, what about those who don't get better and they say they've had enough and they take their own lives? What happens to them?
Oh, that is very sad. That is very sad, because that is an example of a troubled soul. And so again, those people, when they get to the other side, they are taken to the places of healing where they are helped to release whatever the despair was that they passed over with. So it's not a condemnation. It's just that they need a more particular type of help.
Carrie Fiordori, he asks, why do bad things happen to good people?
You see, bad and good are words that we apply to situations that we don't understand. You see, every single thing that happens to you is part of the script that your soul wrote and is rewriting as we go along, as you respond and react to your opportunities for growth. So everything is a lesson. Nothing is a punishment. Please receive this, hear this, and understand this. Nothing is a punishment. You chose to learn certain lessons in your life. If you don't learn them, they will come again in another form. There is the law of karma, that if you do something which harms another, you are given the opportunity to put it right, not as a punishment, but in order for your soul to grow from the experience. So everything is part of your
Okay.
script and your.
So how would you apply that to his next question? Why do children at the hands of the people that gave them life? For example, they might have had child abuse, physical, emotional, sexual. Why or how could that be justified in the plan or divine plan or the karmic plan? How do you explain that?
Some souls come in order to teach the people in their lives, their families, to teach them a lesson or to give them an opportunity to learn a particular lesson. You see, when you are doing your life review, when you have left a life and you look at, oh, I hurt that person, or I should have done this differently, and then you choose what you want to learn in your next life and what you would like to put right from another life. So you get together with your soul group, your soul family. You say, well, I want to learn compassion. And so you set up a situation where one person comes in maybe with a disability, or one person comes in and inflicts suffering on another. But out of that, they are so filled with remorse that they learn compassion, either in that lifetime or when they're doing their life review. So some people agree to come in as the victim and others come in as the perpetrator. But in fact, there is no victim because it is all soul choice. It's part of the soul lesson.
Okay. I think it is hard for some people to wrap their mind around that, but that therefore has a certain understanding about something that is very terrible happening in society, what has
It
to do
doesn't
with
mean to say that.
child abuse, sexual abuse.
Yeah, it doesn't mean to say that as a society we condone it. It may be that part of the lesson is
Mm.
that the people around who see the abuse,
Okay.
that it gives them an
Mm.
opportunity to reach
Okay.
and help. You see,
Mm.
everything that happens on the earth is building the love bonds, is shifting consciousness away from hatred and separateness and judgment of a person because of the color or their financial status or their religion. So it could be that the people who see the abuse, they are allowed to go into compassion and that they step forward to intervene in the situation.
Well, it strikes me as you speak, and I didn't want to bring politics into this, but I think we have to, given that there is a parallel to what you have just said and the person in the White House who is abusing his powers, abusing people left and right, has been doing so for as long as I've known about him. And the way he's handling the coronavirus epidemic or pandemic, the lies, if there isn't a better example of somebody who's abusing people, then I don't know who it would be. And that, from what you just said, is so that people will wake up.
Absolutely. He is part of the divine plan. Somebody needed to hold
Okay.
a mirror to a huge number of people
Mm-hmm.
to say, is this the world that we want to live in? Is this the America that I want to live in? So he, as a soul, chose to take that role. So we must say thank you, because that could have been you that chose that role. And then you were on the receiving end of so much anger and hatred. So he's giving us the opportunity to evaluate what is important as a society, as a community. What are our values? Do we want to take care of the homeless, the aged, single mothers? Or do we want to support the wealthy at the expense of the poor? So he's doing his job.
Okay, he's playing a role. Okay.
Roland,
And I don't want to, I could, I've been spending, I don't know how many days or weeks or months almost obsessing over this. And my poor wife has listened to me endlessly. So I don't want to focus on that right now. Let's continue, if you don't mind, with more questions. One from Teresa and Gargano. What or who is God's Father? What created the universe and where do we go from here?
God and Father are difficult terms because they tend to define. When you reach that level of creation, there is no form and there really are no words. It's all about frequency. The frequency on the physical plane, the waves of energy are very slow. You can see them. That's why we can see what we call the physical reality. We can see a table, we can see a chair. As you evolve up the scale of energy, then the lines get much closer together, the vibration is much faster, and they become invisible. So you might say that the force that created outer form is pure love, pure energy that created form in order to experience itself in its own manifestation. So each one of you and every living thing is the mirror that the divine is looking at to see itself, saying, "Am I not beautiful?"
Well, that brings us to the next question. Michael Parsons, how did he create everything as the Logos and then come to earth as man? What all roles and forms does he assume as he is a shapeshifter? So there's really two questions there.
So there is nothing outside of creation. All is one. So man is a facet on a jewel, as are all the animals, the trees, the light, the angelic planes. There is nothing that is not the oneness. It simply splits itself into myriad forms so that it can be experienced. And this is what is happening on the earth right now. We are being opened like a lotus flower. We are being lifted up so that we can experience much higher vibrational levels where we know that love is the only thing that is real, the only thing that is important.
So being aware of that, I guess, should help us in the sense that for many, it's very painful. I mean, it's like anything, growing pains, right? I mean, we're growing, we're evolving. There's a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, fatigue, all kinds of symptoms, physical symptoms, headaches, aches and pains. Would you say this is all a part of the ascension process?
Absolutely. Think of it as if we are in the process of giving birth, that our bodies, our
Rebirth, yeah.
form, are literally giving birth to our own Christed presence. And so treat your body with the great respect and love that you would give if it was a wife, a loved one giving birth. Rest, eat good food, drink lots of water, be outside in the sunshine, and give yourself the care, the loving care that you need to go through this completely transforming process that none of us on the earth, none of you has ever experienced before, because this has not happened on the earth plane.
Now, you just said us. And if you can explain that, when
because
you said us and then
there,
you switched to you.
yes, there is no separation, because here on this realm, there is only we. There is no you and me.
Okay,
There is we.
okay.
Everything is we. And this is something that is difficult for humans to understand, because we're trained to think of the I, but actually it's all we.
Okay, that makes it more clear. Russell, oh, wait a minute, Ron Patterson, and we have another person here who's, I guess, in the same sense, feeling responsible, feeling guilt for someone else. Why was I the one who lived? He asks. I'm assuming somebody passed away, someone who was close to him died, and he survived. And this is something that I think a lot of people can relate to,
Indeed, it's
being the survivor.
prevalent. It is much harder to be the one that chooses to remain than the one that chose to leave the body and to go home. My own beloved counterpart, my consort, Mary Magdalene, she achieved her ascended status as a master because she agreed to stay in physical form to raise our child when I was brought back home to the light. So in a lot of ways, it was harder for her to stay in the body than it was for me to leave and to return to the light. And so this is something that is not a punishment. There is no guilt, there is no shame, there is an acceptance. Yes, I chose to remain because my work here is not done. And quite often, people find their soul purpose when they have lost somebody that they have loved, and then they are able to reach out and to help others to go through the grieving process. So I feel you. I feel your loss, and I say I understand how hard that is, but to release the guilt immediately and to say, if I am still to be here, then what is my purpose and how can I help?
Well, I hope that helps Ron Patterson. Now, Russell Grindgar has another question, which is quite an interesting literary question, the way he puts these together with his special wording. Is the cosmic sugar daddy version of you correct? Where all we have to do is flap our lips that we believe in you and we go to eternal bliss after this one little life? Or is the cosmic mentor version of you correct, in which if we apply your teachings to our lives, we raise our vibrational signature such that we escape the reincarnation cycle?
And this was
Quite a mouthful.
This was my word. Even greater things shall you do in my name. And so my purpose here was to simply demonstrate the way of love and to ask for each one to become the living model of love in action. So it's not about believing in me and then you are saved. I did not come to save people. I came to show them the way, that it is by your own actions, it is by the love that you have shared, the service and the difference that you have made in the world, that you too shall be lifted up.
So we have a whole industry based on that very thing that you just said, that Jesus saved,
Mhm.
and that in order for you or us to be saved, we must believe blindly in you, in God.
Mhm.
We must worship God. We must be externalizing to God through a priest, a minister, or reverend. I have reverend in my name, but believe you me, I'm nothing like these other fellows. What I'm looking at is trying to understand how many people have been suckered into this belief system. I call it an industry. It's not a spiritual type of gathering or worshiping for themselves.
No, but it is an opportunity for them to say this is not right. When they are hearing a person being condemned by a minister for being gay or having any other kind of vice, then at some point they say, no, this is not right. So it's only giving them an opportunity to see the divine, to feel the empowerment within themselves, and to say, no, I am now going to be the way shower for the way of love. When I was in the body, I said, it is the Father in me that does the work. What I meant was that I had claimed my own divinity. I had returned to the oneness, and I invite you to do the same, to claim the voice of
Okay.
the divine within and to empower yourselves. So in a way, these ones who are challenging you are your teachers, because they are giving you the opportunity to be your authentic self. And many people, especially young people, are leaving those very rigid churches because they know, they feel this is not compassion, this is not love, it is fear and anger and hatred, and it is not who I am, and I want no part of it. So everything has
Well,
its
that brings up a very important point, because I noticed the younger people, and not just younger people, the greater movement of people are repulsed even by the term God
Mm,
and Christian. And it seems to me that it's gone to the extreme. We've gone from one place to another, neither which is good, because it's not balanced. You have sort of people throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
mhm.
Just because they don't like Christianity doesn't mean that Jesus is not pure and is not the vessel of love and God.
Mhm.
So when somebody today is saying that I'm not going to use the word God, what are they saying, really?
So
It's
that's
the same thing, God, right?
but that's part of their growing process. The word really does not matter. So if God has
Hmm.
been given, the word has been given such negative connotations, then don't use it. Use just love or the oneness or the supreme being. It really doesn't matter what the word is. So, this is just part of the whole process of humanity returning home to oneness after the event, which was long before I came to the earth, which is known as the fall, when humanity as a mass disconnected themselves from that golden cord when they knew that they were divine. Since that time, humanity has experienced separation and duality. It is now time to return to the oneness. And so this is simply part of the process to throw out the old teachings that are still keeping the walls up, because whatever the
walls, the divisions.
walls need to come down. And this is another gift of coronavirus. It does not respect creed, color, politics, wealth. It's bringing all the walls down.
The great equalizer. And now, this brings up something else. So somebody asked David Tyler, is God a Christian, a Jew, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Sikh, or other culture, American Indian? And I can answer the question right there for you. Yes. I mean, obviously,
it's
all of the above and none of the above.
They are all ways of finding the way home. There are many paths. They all lead home. They're all leading up the mountain. Whether you do it in Chinese or Hindustani, in English, whatever language you use to bring you home, it doesn't matter. Everybody just needs to find the way that speaks to their heart. And this is the beauty of our global family at this time, is that you do not have to stay with the tradition that you were born into, because it is now available that you can use Sufi practices. Sufism is the mystical wing of Islam that is simply called the way of the heart. You can use Hindu prayers and chanting, Tibetan. You can use the English prayers. It doesn't matter. It's taking you home. So don't get stuck on my way is right, your way is wrong. That is actually the Antichrist. People are asking, what is the Antichrist? It is any creed that says my way is right and your way is wrong. And the Christ is, there is only one. You are my brother. I am you and you are me, and there is nothing else.
Karen Elizabeth Knechtel asks, when someone has not got faith in you, but yet that same person believes in love, does one's love count as faith?
Of course. That is what I ask. Not that you believe in me, that you worship me. I ask that you become me, and on the earth in a physical say, what would Jesus do now? Or what would love do now? Doesn't matter, it's all the same. What would love say now? How would love react in this situation? So I would rather you say love than my name, because I want you to do it just because it's coming from your heart, not because I told you to, or you read that I told you to, and this is the only way to get into heaven.
We've got a question from Christopher Brown. Did you spend some of your missing years learning from Buddhists, as some have theorized?
Absolutely. This is why each of the paths has its own wisdom that all of us can benefit from. I was trained by the Druids in Glastonbury, which was a very, and still is a very holy place. I was taken there by my uncle, Joseph of Arimathea. I spent many, many years in the Himalayas with Babaji, learning how to disassociate from the physical body and lift my energy up to the light. I was taken through many initiations in the mystery schools of Egypt, in the pyramids, in the sarcophagus, going through the initiation of shutting down the body and leaving the body through the cord, returning to oneness, and then bringing my essence back into the body. So all of these trainings were specifically preparing me not only for my mission and for the healings that I was able to achieve, but also to be able to go through the crucifixion and the resurrection. I actually suspended my life force. I withdrew the energy from the body and went through a complete transformation.
And so when you speak about shape-shifting and what you did during the resurrection, basically took on the learning, the skills that you developed in the first 29 years or so from all of these different places. Fascinating. Yeah. Of course, the yogi have the ability to levitate and all kinds of things. So, and they've known about that for thousands and thousands of years before Christianity ever came around.
And this will.
Speaking of going back in time, Mark Diamond is curious to know if you know who really built the pyramids of Egypt and other places around the world.
In those times, there was still the connection between the Star Brothers and the Star Sisters, and they had the technologies that the earth and humanity is about to remember. The Egyptians came from Atlantis. They knew how to manifest physical forms through intention, through bringing materials directly from the etheric planes and creating physical form. And as you were saying, levitating, this is the next step for humanity, is to remember these powers that are simply states of consciousness. And as you raise your frequency, you will be remembering those skills that you have had. Humanity has actually lost much of the consciousness that it had in Lemuria and in Atlantis. And that's how the pyramids were built.
And so I'm wondering if also you could comment on the phenomenon of UFOs and extraterrestrials. What connection is there between these extraterrestrials and God and angels and Jesus and other masters? Are they all related in some way?
They are related, but some of the what we call the greys or the ETs, they are still operating on a very mental plane, and they have been using human species and animal species for their own experiments. And this has now been stopped because it is not permissible. The Earth is a planet of free will, but other extraterrestrials who are the star beings from Sirius, Pleiades, Arcturus, because everything that is happening on the earth is of such great importance to all of life, to all of the hierarchies of existence. There are many, many beings, and some of them are in ships that can manifest their ships into a physical form. They travel through the light years in a light ship, and then they manifest in a physical form if they want it to be visible to humanity. So these ones are helping with this shift on the earth plane.
And some have even theorized that the star that was shining so brightly at the time of the birth of Jesus was actually a spaceship.
Yes, this is very possible that it was the sign that people had been waiting for, but it was a ship that was creating that sign.
Okay. I've got a number of questions. I can sense that your throat is starting to give way. I don't want to strain you any much further. A few more questions, and we'll call it a night. Would you say you're okay for a little longer? Okay. I mean, I know Jesus is, but then the physical vessel of Charmian
Mm,
is what I'm concerned about.
thank you.
Charmian, you're okay? Okay.
Yes, thank you. Mm,
Q, Q. You may have heard of Q, QAnon. Um, they have been around, I think, since 2017,
mm.
and they have kind of come up at some of the rallies of Donald Trump. Um, and they put out there all kinds of conspiracy theories. They, of course, like you, are saying that this is part of the plan. The divine plan is having Donald Trump in the White House, and he's going to help to clean the swamp and get rid of the deep state, which they also claim was caused by the coronavirus. And they also claim Lieutenant pedophile cabal are involved with child sex trafficking. Bill Clinton and Hillary are also involved in selling drugs, and they're all connected.
There has been.
And there are millions of people following this, and they're often great supporters of Trump, and also they are flat earthers. They believe the earth is flat. There seems to be this correlation. What do you say about these people? We're talking about 150 million people, right, that are in that category, approximately, in America.
There is great abuse going on this planet in terms of the trafficking of children. It does need to be stopped, so we do need to be vigilant and to speak up when that kind of energy it comes to our attention. But the conspiracy theory that the earth is going to be taken over and that we're going to be changed into a slave race is just a distraction. It might be a plan that a small number of powerful people have, but that is what is leaving the earth. That is the old earth. And when the rest of humanity awaken to the truth of their own being, there simply will not be a place on the earth. You see, what's happening is all of that energy of power over, manipulation, control is simply leaving the planet because in the fifth dimension, it simply cannot exist. It's like snow in the desert. It's just going to melt away. So the purpose of this, it's an attempt to distract us from what we really need to be doing, which is being love in action. So, you know, when the first manned space flights happened and people looked down at the earth and saw for the first time what the earth looks like from space, it had been prophesied that there would be a huge shift of consciousness, and there has been. We need to see ourselves as one family, one earth. There's no us and them. Everybody is on a journey, and it's up to each one of you to say, well, what do I stand for? And personally, I would like to see everybody living the new earth, living love, peace, and harmony. And just, if you don't give your energy to these negative theories, they will just drop away. So claim your power. It's the same as the negative churches. This other movement, the conspiracy theories, is doing exactly the same thing. It's trying to keep you in fear so that you can be controlled. It's also giving you the opportunity to say, no, this is not my truth. I am not a slave. I am not a victim. I am the creator of my universe. And this is what I choose to create. And then write a list of how you want the new earth to look, which is a safe place for every child.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's like what you're saying is that we have the opportunity now to co-create a new earth. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, that's
And
what we're here for.
that brings me, yeah, the idea then, it kind of goes right into the law of attraction. What you are thinking about,
Mhm,
what you are believing about yourself
mhm.
is going to generate more and more energy that is going to help you achieve that which you are uh, asking for. And so that really goes contrary to what I was brought up. Anyone who's studied science, of course, knows is opposites attract.
Mhm,
Magnets attract, positive, negative.
mhm.
I wonder if you can make sense for us about that. There's positive, there's negative. Tesla certainly was able to use that. Nikola Tesla, back over 100 years ago, he worked with electricity. He was able to, in fact, draw free energy from the atmosphere.
Is this
And he, in fact, was responsible.
what you're talking about is the law of physics, that antagonistic
Yes, yes,
magnetize each other. But what
yes.
we are talking about is the law of creation, that as it is
Okay.
done to you as you believe. So if you believe that you are unworthy, that you deserve to be treated badly, to be kept in poverty and lack, that is what your experience will be. As you connect more to your own divine essence, you raise your frequency, you bring your love in, you increase your love quotient, you will see your world beginning to change. And I promise you this, that you will see the joy, you will be receiving more love, you will be enhanced in every way. So focus on what you are putting out, because those programs that were laid onto you as a child, when you came in as a child, you were radiating light, because you just came from the source, from God, whatever you want to call it. And then you were conditioned by your family of way that you were born into, to believe that you were naughty, bad, useless, hopeless, stupid, whatever. It breaks my heart to hear the things that were said to little children. So now
Wow, well,
you're
a lot of
going
people.
into your adulthood. Now you need to do the cleanup work. And you need to look
Right.
at the programs. When you hear yourself doing negative self-talk, I'm not good enough, I always screw up, but nothing ever goes right for me, immediately stop yourself and reverse that and say, I am good enough. Everything always goes right for me. And you will see your world begin to change.
Well, you've just, you have psychic abilities, obviously. That's one of the abilities. Steve Goins asked, how do I always stay focused, positive, and loving without judgment, as you do? So you've just answered the question, is you have to focus more on love and bring your own vibration to a higher level,
Mhm.
so that this is not where you're going to focus your energy.
Right.
Easier said than done, though. I mean, I know personally, I've lost it sometimes. I mean, I'm embarrassed to say that, but I do, on occasion, uh, lose my temper and get very upset over
The
things.
thing is that everyone on the earth is on the journey home. They choose their lessons in the only way that they can receive them. So some people need to experience the extremes of warfare to actually kill people, or to have their loved ones killed, in order to realize that this is not the way I want to live. This is not who I am. If you do not need that lesson, then don't get involved in the drama. You can watch
Mm-hmm.
what other people, are they really doing that? Do they really need to hear that or to experience that? And that's giving
Walk
you
away.
the opportunity to say, not me. And also not to judge, because you can always say, there but for the grace of God go I. That people are choosing extremely difficult paths home when they could just decide to be loving and kind and take the fast route. And everything that is being done by somebody is them trying to find the way home. So have compassion for that.
All right, I'm gonna cut you off there because we're getting close to the end. We've got maybe less than 4 minutes to go. And as it happens, Ria Tarnava has a question. Can I please go home now?
No.
And that's sort of the last question to end our interview. I thank you very much. A few notes, though, about what you're up to, how people can get in contact with you. You are located in Oxnard, California, which is just north of Los Angeles. Your website is cominghometolamuria.com. Facebook is Charmian Redwood. And so is your YouTube channel, Charmian Redwood. And you have a special price now that you are offering for your service of a 2-hour, would this be a 2-hour hypnotherapy session where you would be getting the person to connect to their higher self?
It's a roadmap. It's
and Norm,
who you are, where you came from. It's bringing that in, removing the blocks, and then where am I going? What's this going to look like? What is my soul purpose? So it's like a whole roadmap of who you are as a being, as a soul.
Well, I've read a lot of the testimonials about your services, and they sound pretty good. And I myself am, as you know, planning to meet with you for a consult sometime in mid-April. So you're giving these sessions, normally they're $200 for 2 hours. And for those people who are fortunate enough to be watching this program, either live or in a recorded version, you're offering a $50 discount. Am I right?
Absolutely, yes. I really, and you know, people who have done this process just say it's been so completely life transforming. Just one session will change your life. So I want it to be available.
No doubt. I mean, you changed my life already, just, you know, in this interview and in other talks that we've had. It's hard to put a word to it. Love, I guess that will do. It comes through very, very much. Even, you know, through the internet, even though we're thousands of miles apart. I'm in Laval, which is just north of Montreal, Quebec in Canada, and you're just north of Las Vegas. So the power is there, love is there forever. So this will last how long, the discount?
Till the end of April.
How long did you want it to last for?
End of April.
Till the end of April, okay. The end of April, you have that opportunity. Okay, I have to leave you now. I want to thank you, Charmian Redwood. You have been absolutely incredible, patient. We had lots of technical difficulties, and finally it came together in this session. So I give you all my love and blessing and look forward to the session with you.
Thank you and bless you all.